Hey, long time no see. I appreciate your patience. Sorry, I found myself in the hospital and then I was in this depressive state where I could not find the motivation to make content, but now I feel better. So let's talk indie games. So last time I made a video about Xbox Game Pass, my games weren't new enough. So I'm back again to make another video about Xbox Game Pass titles, except they're newer. And just to be clear, this doesn't necessarily mean the games are brand spanking new. Some of them could be, but it's more so which ones were recently released on Game Pass because new's kind of vague. So let's just rock with that. But here are 10 indie games on Xbox Game Pass that I highly recommend you go check out. First up, let me gush about Cocoon for a minute. This game was recently added to Game Pass, and bro, did this game surprise me. Cocoon is this puzzle adventure game where each world exists inside of these magical glass orbs that you'll dive into and jump out of throughout the game. As a small, cool looking moth dude, you'll interact with some crazy ancient alien technology and explore diverse biomes such as factories, deserts, caverns, and what could possibly be purgatory? The world of Cocoon is mysterious and surreal, where every new puzzle, boss fight, and set piece left me mystified and sometimes even confused, but in a good way. I will admit, a few puzzles did force me to head over to YouTube to find a guide, but in the end, Cocoon is an amazing title that is certainly fighting for its place in my top 10 by the end of the year. And for my non-Game Pass having friends, don't you sweat it, because not only is Cocoon available on Game Pass for PC and console, but you can also play it on Nintendo Switch and PlayStation. Sea of Stars needs little introduction, but I never got around to making a review for it, so I'm going to talk about it like my life depends on it. Sea of Stars is a modern RPG that takes inspiration from other popular RPGs, such as Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy. And real quick, if you're someone who gets upset at that comparison, I think you need to sit back and ask yourself why real quick, just before you leave that nasty comment, okay? But anywho, you'll play as two Solstice warriors, Zale and Valir, as you set out to save the world from being destroyed by the hands of the Fleshmancer and his evil forces. And not to lore dump here, but Sea of Stars is a prequel to the studio's previous game, The Messenger. And for anyone who has played through that first game, there is a lot for you to discover and recognize. But since it is a prequel, you can happily start here and then go play the first game second, and still get the same joy and wonder that I did during my playthrough. You can dive into Sea of Stars on Game Pass for PC or Xbox, or you could happily pick it up on Switch or the PlayStation 5. For all my bookworms out there, the Bookwalker Thief of Tales is a game you gotta check out. In Bookwalker, you'll play as a writer-turned-thief who can transport yourself into books. You'll explore your library in first person and then jump over to an isometric view whenever you're exploring each book. You'll then use this power to gather incredible legendary items from narrative history, like Thor's hammer, Excalibur, and more. Now this game dropped while I was on vacation, so I only really got to play the first 10 minutes or so via the cloud, but the game looks hella dope and I'm excited to get back to it soon-ish. You can check out the Bookwalker Thief of Tales on Game Pass as well as PlayStation 5. So let me hit you with an oldie but a goodie. This is Gris. Gris? I think it's Gris. So Gris is a beautiful watercolor 2D platformer about a young girl lost in her own world and dealing with the struggles of her own life. Players can expect a serene platforming experience with light puzzles and simple platforming, with no crazy combat encounters or frustration of dying over and over again. Instead, you'll get a deep narrative experience about dealing with grief told through visual storytelling and abstract illustrations that are just so darn beautiful to watch. If you've ever played games like Abzu or Journey, Gris is very similar and I think you'll truly enjoy it. Gris is currently only available on PC Game Pass, but you can still purchase it on the Xbox as well as Switch and PlayStation consoles. Another fairly recent addition to Game Pass, Venba tells the story of a young Tamil woman trying to raise a son in Canada while trying to make sure he stays familiar with his Tamil roots. Each chapter of the game features a Tamil meal that you as Venba will have to prepare. So you have to read carefully, think outside of the box, and even think back to your childhood as you make the perfect meals for your family. Now, I had a behind the scenes look at Venba and they showed us just how deep they went in perfecting the sounds of this game, featuring famous Tamil musicians and even making each dish themselves to not only nail the cooking process and translate it into gameplay, but record each and every sound of these ingredients to make it as genuine as possible. Venba isn't particularly long. If you're good enough, you could probably knock it out in just a couple hours, but the game's about experiencing the growth of parents and children as they grow to understand themselves and each other. Venba's available on both PC and console Game Pass, as well as Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5. Take a game that's 1/3 city builder, 1/3 roguelike, and 1/3 riding on the back of a giant monster. This is The Wandering Village. In this early access sandbox game, you'll be starting your own settlement from the ground up, but your environments will never quite be the same since Onbu, that giant colossus you're living on, is constantly on the move, walking through deserts, poison clouds, forests, tundras, and more hostile elements. All the while, your villagers are researching and developing new technologies to enhance your civilization by making food, energy sources, medicine, and a bunch of other stuff we as humans need to make it by. Personally, city builders aren't my cup of tea, but when they include a unique and wacky mechanic such as Onbu, I'm a bit more excited to check it out. So, if you want to hitch a ride on a giant giraffe, dog, dinosaur thing, be sure to download The Wandering Village on both PC and console Game Pass. Now it's time for the latest game from Heart Machine, and that is Solar Ash. a wildly abstract and fast-paced adventure game where you play as Ray the Void Runner, skating on air and through other crazy environments, trying to save your planet from the eternal hunger of the Ultra Void. Yeah, I don't really know what those words mean, but the gameplay of Solar Ash is super fluid, and if you like Hyperlight Drifter, you're going to experience the same level of quality and artistry as that. Speed through a world filled with spooky ghost ladies, giant monsters, stunning environments, and even more giant monsters. I still need to get back and finish Solar Ash because, you know, I'm really bad at not finishing my games, but you can probably beat me at rolling credits when you download the game from Game Pass on PC or console, or pick it up on your PlayStation. We all know that right now, Tears of the Kingdom is the Zelda game in everybody's mind, but what if I showed you a game that plays like classic Zeldas, but it's got an adorable little fox? This is Tunic. Not only is Tunic insanely adorable, but it's also got an air of mystery as you decipher an unknown language to learn new skills and find the great treasure hidden somewhere in this land. This little fox is ready to dive into a variety of techniques and overcome a plethora of monsters while discovering new tools that'll further your adventure. See, I told you this game's just like Zelda. I remember seeing this game at multiple indie showcases, E3s, PAXs, and more, and now that it's finally out, I think more people need to discover the charm of this little indie title. So if you're ready to discover this wild adventure, check out Tunic on both PC and console Game Pass, as well as on your Nintendo Switch or PlayStation 4 or 5. For all my Pokemon and music fans out there, this is Cassette Beasts. After finding yourself washed up on a strange beach one day, you realize getting home is going to be a lot more challenging than you hoped it would be. Rather than capturing a bunch of monsters in cramped little balls, in Cassette Beast, you'll record them with vintage tapes, and then use them to power up your abilities and even merge with your teammates to create even more powerful beasts. There's also an extraordinary cast of colorful characters, both human and monster-like, for you to customize your party and make it work for whatever mission lies ahead of you. Now, I gotta say, in a world where we just got arguably the worst Pokemon game of all time, indies are really carrying the weight of good monster collecting games. Sadly, they aren't all on Game Pass for now, so I gotta recommend you check out Cassette Beasts on Game Pass for PC and console, as well as on the Nintendo Switch. And finally, to wrap up this list, let's look at the cinematic horror adventure game, Bramble the Mountain King. In this unsettling adventure game, you're on a mission as Ollie to save your little sister as you face the hideous creatures of the swamps, forest, and ungodly Nordic wilderness standing between you. You'll surely be captivated by the stunning environments and even more certainly get caught off guard by the tense, heart-pounding moments that'll leave you at the edge of your seat. So enjoy a fun yet scary adventure with Bramble the Mountain King on PC and console Game Pass, as well as on the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation platforms. And there you have it, 10 more indie games available on Xbox Game Pass that I highly recommend you check out. Microsoft is constantly adding new games to this collection, so personally, I follow the Xbox Game Pass Twitter, so I'm always up to date on what's getting added. So I'd recommend you do the same thing if you're constantly finding yourself running out of things to play. And also while you're over there, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I make some fire tweets, and when nobody likes them, I get sad. Now, if you'll excuse me, I know I'm the indie game guy, but I have a big old session of Spider-Man 2 waiting for me, so it's time for me to go. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to stick around because I've got plenty more indie game goodness coming your way.